All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by another live episode of Real Estate Titans, sponsored by Lion Bolt Media. I'm your host, Greg Fowler, traveling throughout the marketplace, interviewing the top real estate professionals in our field, essentially gathering insight, inspiration, really drives and motivates these top producers above and beyond everybody else in what I'd like to consider a real estate titan. Now, our very special guest and featured titan today, all the way from beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, none other than Gary Ashton. Gary, it's an honor and a pleasure, my friend. I cannot wait to share your story with the Titan Nation.
Cool. I'm here. That's what I'm here to do.
I love it. So without further ado, let's just dive in, let everybody know who you are, why you do what you do, the whole nine. So let's just start with the first question, Gary, which is telling everybody just a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from England, from Leeds, and long story short, as I moved to America in 1990, me and my dad got like a mom and pop motel, and I've been playing music in England, toured with some bands in the 90s that nobody's ever heard of now. So we opened for Tears for Fears and things like that, and so that whole thing kind of dissolved. So ended up selling a couple of mom and pop motels in England. Moved to America because at the time it was $2 to the pound, so everything was half price. So we ended up buying a place on Clearwater Beach and did that for 10 years. Utilized a lot of the advertising marketing background I had to try and generate more business for the motel. You know, we got really involved in the internet mid 90s when that first came. But then developers came along and wanted to buy the hotel, so motel. So we did that. I'd also been playing, because I was still playing drums, and I met a couple of guys from England, and then recorded a CD that got heard by somebody in Nashville. Then I played on another one, and they said, you guys should come up to Nashville. So came up to Nashville, and I loved it. It was fantastic. So when we sold the motel, had to do the 1031 exchange, which is to reinvest that money made from the capital gains, as it were. And then, so I thought, well, I'll get my real estate license, and then I'll do music, because I'm a good drummer. I'm pretty good. And I thought, I'll come to Nashville. I'll make all this money doing music, and then I'll do real estate on the side. Well, that's when I found out that even though I think I'm pretty good, it's like, wow, people in Nashville, the drummers were just amazing. So I was like, I'm not going to make any money here. And so the focus went from music to real estate, essentially. So, and then because I got my real estate license, because I thought I'll be able to get the inside scoop on buying investment properties, and then obviously I'll be able to keep the commission. That's what I was thinking originally. And so I got my license, and then realized the balance was going to be music, real estate, and then it kind of just went the other way. So that was in I got my license 2001, March 2001.
And I love that background when it comes down to it, Gary, because again, giving everybody just a background and perspective of where you came from to how you got into the business, which is fantastic. And I want to give everybody a little bit deeper window into from the start to where you are today, because the accolades and what you've accomplished in your career are absolutely through the moon and back, setting the bar to the highest of standards. I mean, being the #1 team in the world for RE/MAX.
You have to say that in the correct way, though. It's the
okay.
#1 RE/MAX team in the world.
Okay.
I like to emphasize that world.
The world. That's globally, everybody. So
that's me putting my American accent on, because it sounds better with an American accent.
I beg to differ.
In the world, or #1 RE/MAX team in the world.
So being the #1 RE/MAX team in the world, when it comes down to that, Gary, what was it like from the start to where you are today? Shifts, changes, things like that. Just give everybody a little bit of, kind of steps that you took to get to go and where you're at. What does that look like?
Oh, well, I mean, the growth of the team was really the fact that I was just a single agent. So I was doing my own business. Long story short, I ended up being a buyer's agent for like one of the most successful listing agents in the office. And, sadly he got divorced, and his wife was helping him do stuff. So I thought, well, this is a good opportunity for me to get some experience. So I'll just offer my services and say, can I help you out? And so back then he was getting a lot of leads from sign calls. So, and he was letting them go to waste. So I said, let me help you with those. And so that's where it evolved, where I learned pretty quickly. If you call back people quickly, that's the best way to get a hold of them, best way to make that connection. So then I ended up getting a website because I'd done websites for the hotel, motel back in Florida. So my whole focus was then to try and generate business for myself. So I started doing pay-per-click. This is back in 2001 or 2, whenever Google came along. I can't remember when that was. So I was one of the first ones to do that. And then because of that, I ended up just generating enough business to kind of go on my own. So it was 1 or 2 leads a day. And then the people that own Nashville.com were trying to find an agent that saw the value of internet leads. And back then, because Nashville.com ranked organically for everything. If you typed in Nashville, it would rank. So they were getting 15 to 20 people registering on their site a day. So
wow.
They called me and said, would I be interested? And I said, how much? And they said, whoa, I think I must have said, oh, are you kidding? That's way too much. But then they said, well, how about we'll give you a week's free leads just to show you the value. And that was like, I call them taps or faucets, like the leads were coming like little drips, like 1, 2 a day. And that was good. Yep. Then all of a sudden they just turned it on. It's like gushing.
Wow.
Leads gushing. So that's when I realized I needed a logo that was nationally recognizable, because I was with a big local independent, so huge company here still. But if you were in Chicago or LA, maybe you didn't know them. And also when they came to the website, if it had said Gary Ashton real estate, then people go, who's that? No. But if it had the Remax balloon, then it was a lot more, it's instantly recognizable. Like it's whether you like the balloon or not. If you see that balloon, then you know that's real estate. So on a website, if that's all you've got is this little bit of real estate, to maximize the impact of that spot, to get people to come to that page, better off saying the balloon and Remax rather than just Gary Ashton. So
fair enough.
Yeah. So then I switched to Remax, and that's when I realized that I need to start handing out these leads rather than, because initially I was just giving them to anybody.
Okay.
But then I realized I got to create a team here, because I at least got to track where they've gone. Did they follow up? Did they call? Because I think when somebody just says, hey, do you want some leads? They go, sure. But then the inclination is just to work on their own personal business. And then maybe they'll call those leads 3 or 4 days later, by which time, as we all know, internet leads, you need to be speed to lead, has to be done as quickly as possible. So then I just started creating my team so we could actually have some standards and follow up the way that I was doing it. So I was doing pretty well. So then it was essentially just putting yourself in a position where you're training the agents. And I wasn't really training. I was just saying, like, this is what I do. So, and then, that continued to grow. And then I realized I didn't want to have all my money and all my eggs in one basket. So then I got a website, got an REW site, which then became competition because it was ranking really well. And as time went on, the Nashville.com site, essentially, they didn't reinvest the money because it's a geo domain. So they were relying on intuitive type-ins. And so they weren't really optimizing the site to get what they had when they first started, because Google changed their algorithms. So all of a sudden Nashville.com wasn't number 1 on the page. It was page 2, page 3. So luckily I'd done my own page and got my own SEO going. So So then that site started really ranking, and so started generating my own leads. So I didn't do pay-per-click anymore. I was just doing organic lead generation. And then the team kept on growing. So I kept on reinvesting money back in websites, and the team kept on growing. Yep.
Wow, that's incredible, Gary. And again, being kind of thinking outside the box and being first to market in a lot of instances. You and I spoke before we went live for a little bit, and I think that that's something that the biggest innovators and people that are really pushing the boundaries in any business or industry, they're willing to take that chance and that risk and looking at things a little bit differently. Sometimes you get burned for being an early adopter,
Yeah.
but other times
So
you have success.
I think I told you I'm a serial early adopter because I like shiny objects. I like new things. I like technology. I like, we were talking about virtual reality. I mean, I love all the Oculus stuff, the Quest, and Matterport, using all that stuff, because as we've seen with COVID, the technology is the technology is there, but we're now being forced to adapt and use it. So I think I've always done that. The team's always done that, but now the public is realizing, oh, these virtual tours are actually pretty cool. There's Matterport things, and I don't actually have to go look at the property. I can do a FaceTime tour. I can do Facebook Live tours. So there's so many different ways now for people to see property utilizing technology, and I love all that stuff. So we always like to be ahead of the curve, and using things like video, using BombBomb, using the technology within BombBomb to be, you can show somebody by doing a virtual tour actually from computer to computer, just by using the record the screen function. And then, I don't know if you know this, you can have like 2 hours worth of tour on your phone that you can use on BombBomb. Anyway, so stuff like that, we like to really utilize and stay ahead. And like I was saying, COVID's definitely opened up a lot of people's minds to adapting to technology, which I always say, if you're driving a car, you don't need to know how the car works. You don't need to understand the science of the internal combustion engine and the transfer of gears and ratios to the wheels to make it. You just need to know that when you get in, you can drive the car and you get from A to B. So it's kind of like, you don't need to fully understand the technology. You need to know that it's useful and makes your life and the consumer's life that much more convenient. So
I would agree with that 100%. And I think that, as we were discussing earlier as well, I think that looking at the mass adoption of things and how it's changed, and going on that similar vein, it's a cell phone, right? I mean, not cell phones, and now.
Explain to me how the cell phone works, how I can call somebody in England.
Right.
But then I also use it as a to watch video. I can also use it as it's Star Trek, If you watch Star Trek.
Dick Tracy with the intercom phone, that sort of thing, or watch. And I mean, it's insane, Gary, but I love that. I love the push of innovation. And again, the leaders really kind of blaze that trail, if you will. And I know that a lot of people say sometimes the first person through the wall gets bloodied. But I really think at the end of the day that's really.
Yeah, but you're the first one to heal. And then you're always ahead of the, you might get a little couple of cuts and bruises here and there, but the fact that you're first through, that means you're the first through into that new territory too. So you can really establish and put the flag in the ground and claim this real estate as mine.
I love it. But so Gary, I want to dive a little bit deeper into you, into what drives you further past, kind of the beginning of your story to where you're at today, being the #1 in the world. So I want to make sure that's stressed out. It does sound nicer. It does sound nicer that way in Remax. But so the next question is, what's your why? What really drives you, motivates you? What gets you excited every day out of bed to do what you do to the level you do it
at? Well, generally because we've got so many bills to pay. We don't do any selling, then we don't. And then also you start realizing that as the company's got bigger and we got more and more agents, then you have more and more staff. So then you start realizing we need to keep this momentum going, because all these people then have, wives, husbands, significant others, children, everybody needs to get more business to survive, as it were, and that's their job. And so there's a little bit of a responsibility there too. And and I think there's, to be serious, that you actually start realizing that you want to create a good environment for people to work. You want to create good opportunities for them to exceed in their life and create wealth and prosperity for themselves. So we have a whole mission statement, which I can't remember what it is offhand, but it's basically to help everybody grow and develop their own business, and also give back to the community and make sure that everybody's happy. And we're the best team in the world.
Gary, when you mentioned that to your why, it obviously is bigger than yourself, which again is the most important thing to really drive you past, those next levels or boundaries that a lot of people go through. But I think that speaks volumes about your care and your character. But I do want to mention, because you guys are growing, and, not everybody feels that way, Gary. The truth is, not everybody truly deeply cares about their team and the success and the growth as you do. And obviously you have a lot of love and support that way backwards. So can you talk a little bit about your growth and what's happening with you guys, and just to the audience out there who's watching or listening?
Yeah, I mean, I started off with 2 agents that ended up joining the team because I was having so many leads, and then we've continually grown because we're continually pushing forward the boundaries of technology and lead acquisition and marketing. So we do the traditional stuff. We do a radio advertising, which was kind of like I've done all SEO for a while, but then I friends in the business. Chris Lindell up in Minneapolis. I don't know if you know Chris, and Justin Haver, and so those guys are kind of like, Gary, you need to do radio. Come on, you need to. Okay, so I did radio, and then we started seeing the incremental growth of the business, which means then you need more agents, and then next thing we're doing was doing billboards. So I've forgotten what your question was, but
talking about the growth and the opportunity, and I think that you caring about your agents, but you have a significant opportunity with Zillow, if I'm not mistaken. And I just
so we became the agent partner for Zillow for doing the Zillow offers program, and then we became the growth partner for Zillow. So Zillow, whether you like them or you hate them, what they're doing is creating a service that's so convenient for the public, and that's what the public wants. They want access to knowledge. They want the ability to sell a home conveniently, and then becomes even more appropriate during the times of COVID. So we essentially partnered with them, and we became the growth partner. And so now we've got even more opportunities. So I'm always looking for new agents. We're looking to recruit agents that are hungry for business. And we've had agents that are brand new, come straight from real estate school. And then we've also had more recently agents that have seen the growth and seen our agents, and our agents are all pretty successful. So that after a while, people start putting the two together. We sold $650 million worth of real estate last year. So
incredible.
And people like to be involved in something that's successful, I believe, and we have a good reputation for the training that we do. So we just because of COVID, we started looking at things and how we can improve things. So we just switched to a new platform called Trainio, actually, which is really good, which it allows us, because we've always done the training, we've always done virtual training, but now it actually enables us to bring it together, because we were using Google Docs and all sorts of stuff to keep things in one place, and that becomes a little chaotic after a while. So Trainio has been a really another step forward for the growth of the brokerage, because I feel like lots of other brokerages will talk about the training that they do, which I'm sure is fantastic, but we definitely have more of a reputation for doing actual the definite fundamentals of making sure that your contracts and everything is well written, well represented. So you're looking after you creating the best possible experience for the client, essentially. So I know that's a bit of a cliche, but that's exactly what we try and do. And that's how do you do that? Well, that's through amazing training and the people we have in the organization. Like Deborah Beagle is our managing broker, and she's a business partner. But the stuff that she's doing, it's training the agents. That's the one thing that when they come over, if they've come from another world, another business, they love the training that we get. And also when agents come over from another brokerage, they always talk about how, whoa, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, which is good, because anybody that goes out, we want to make sure that they're a good representation of the firm, obviously, of the company.
Sure. And I think that that's a wonderful opportunity. Anybody who's watching or listening, if they are looking to make a change or at least explore opportunities, Gary, if it's all right, I'm going to have a bunch of your sites listed below so people can get a hold of you.
Yeah. All they need to do is go to joingaryashton.com.
Very cool. Joingaryashton.com. I'll have that link down below so you guys can click right straight to it and reach out and see if it's an opportunity.
I've always seen people do that when it's either up here or
it's either this way or this way. Usually it's down, but like when I say it, it's down in the comments. So that's why I always say it's down below because it's usually sitting there. But no, Gary, I think this is really, really great. And again, we're just getting warmed up here. So the next question is extremely viable for everybody who's watching or listening. They love to learn from the Titans and understand how they've grown and scaled their business. So because you are huge into training and educating and really making sure that your team is growing to the highest of standards, if you could look back at your career thus far, pick or choose one or two things that you added to your business, that you implemented that really took it from one level to the next. Anybody who's watching or listening, what advice would you give, whether they're new or seasoned? What are some things that you did to really grow, scale?
So I was always working on scripting, because when somebody told me about scripting, I always thought that meant you had to follow the script like verbatim. Sure. And then when I realized that wasn't really scripting, it was more about learning and internalizing so that you could answer questions and overcome objections, things like that. So I put off scripting for a long time. I don't know why still. So I thought, so that whole role playing, I think everybody hates role playing. So that's essentially like sparring. So having the agents do role playing, something that I think is really beneficial. So also just surrounding yourself with people who do things at a different level to you, and having an open mind, I guess, to listen to what people are saying and why you shouldn't do that anymore. You should change direction. So making sure that you have surrounding yourself with people that will push you, I guess, and take you. And people always talk about this comfort zone thing, but making just like Chris and Justin. Gary, you need to do radio. Gary, you need to do billboards. Gary, you need to do this. So those are the guys that kind of push me along. We work with John Cheplack, who's a real estate coach. There's a lot of us all work with John. So again, John will point out things and like instead of being critical of people, maybe taking a little step back and going, well, what could we have done to improve that experience, instead of saying, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? What could we have done to change the outcome of this? Could we have done something? Could we have supported you? Could we have done a little bit more education? Could we have recognized some things maybe we should have done differently? So having those kind of experiences, I wouldn't have had that if I wasn't around other people. So I think it's the people that you surround yourself with. And that's another cliche, you want to surround yourself with smarter people than you. So I've done that by luck, by obviously Deborah, I got Scott, I got Johnny, we got all these people on the team that are all way smarter than me, that bring so much more. And instead of me being focused on one thing, somebody will say, well, that we should probably look at it from this point of view. And then I go, I guess. Yeah. And so that's having somebody that has more wisdom, more knowledge, more experience, and more insight. And then you just have to be, instead of going, nope, I'm doing it my way, then you have to go, ah. So I think that the biggest growth was really when we went from just being my team to working with Deborah and Johnny and Scott and all of the staff on that we have. We've got a marketing department. We've got just realizing that, yeah, you're good at one thing, but you need these people who are good at all these other things. So that really helped us grow. And then just having an open mind to spending more money on advertising and marketing, and then switching to, we ended up using Follow Up Boss, which is huge. So that was another big growth. And then when we started using ISAs, inside sales agents, and then we started using licensed inside sales agents. And then occasionally, you take a leap of faith and you do something like become the official real estate agent of the Titans, which is, that was a big growth spurt that added a ton of credibility to us, because I believe that it's always good to be the number one at something in your market. So, and there's only one official real estate team of the Titans, which is us. So that helped set us apart. And in my mind, I always tell the agents, you're aligning yourself with Remax as a world-class brand, but you're also aligning yourself with the NFL, which is a world brand that's everybody recognizes. So there's what's the transfer of credibility? Because if you're working with the NFL, then I think people subliminally think, well, if they're using them, then he must be good. And so that helped us set us apart. And then, then that led to working with Top Golf in the area. And then we ended up working with the Predators, the hockey team. So all these things start adding credibility and awareness. And at the end of the day, I think it all comes down to realizing that you need to build up your own personal brand. And so you become a brand. And that's what we've done over, the last 4 or 5 years. I think was showed. We're in a hot market, so we've got to give us that too. So, but we did 650 million last year. The previous year was like 410, so we had a massive incremental growth. So I think a lot of that is due to the way that we also recruit and train, and not just throw somebody in the deep end. Our onboarding is 2 weeks. And so, because we have a lot to learn essentially, but we want to make sure that people are set up right. So when I first was doing the team, I would always say that, I can't guarantee you get a closing, but within 6 months you should be closing something. But now we can say that I can't guarantee it again, but we've got agents that are having deals within 3 or 4 days of joining the team after they've done the boot camp. And so that could be, you could say, well, that's just a one-off, but when it happens numerous times, and then I can feel confident about saying, if you follow the system and really, follow our lead, as it were, and you work with the examples that we set you, so we have mentors and we have squads that everybody's part of. So there's this like little corps d'esprit. Agents will do really well. Essentially, it's almost like we can guarantee you to, if you follow the system, you'll be guaranteed to do well, essentially.
But I think that kind of lays the foundation out for everybody to understand. And I think it's a Tony Robbins quote, but success leaves breadcrumbs. So I think that
me, I like breadcrumbs. I'll
pick those up. Those are gone. But you guys have laid the path, the foundation. So if somebody follows those footsteps, right? If somebody, it's not.
We have an outline, and if you don't have to follow it verbatim.
Sure.
But if you're doing the fundamentals, because everybody has their own personality, you can't try and have those scripts and sound like somebody else. You want to, like I said before, you need to internalize them. So you're getting that message across, but it needs to be you that's speaking, not somebody else. But I think, yeah, we create the platform and the roadmap for people to be extremely successful. And like I said, if it once, then that's, maybe that's luck. But if we're seeing continually people doing really, really well,
right,
patterns
into that.
Yes, I think, and it's not me. It's the people that we've brought on that have come in and tweaked and changed the system, and we did a lot of training and tweaked all the training. So what I started off with back, 10 years ago is so far removed to what we have now, because bringing in people who are bigger and better at doing those things, and like I said, having that open mind and listening to what other people are saying and making sure that you take advice from people who essentially know better than you. I mean, I very rarely will say no to anything. I don't think I've ever said we're not going to do that. I think the only thing I ever disagreed on was the type of chairs we got for the office, and I didn't like. But that's it. Everything else, we're always. I think that's the main thing, is you have people that you're not going like this. You're not divergent. You're on the same path, and you might be going that way, and then they just pull you back in a little bit. So you got to say, well, make sure you see the end goal, and they just need to knock you back in line, or knock me back in line a little bit.
Wow. I love that though, Gary. And there's so much usable information that everybody that's watching or listening can really apply and kind of, I guess, have reflection on their current business, no matter what scale they're in, no matter what production they're doing, and whether they're seasoned or they're brand new. I think that that's really just great information. So everybody, as always, you can pause this, rewind this, listen to this. And I'm going to have all of Gary's links down below so you can follow along and try to learn from one of the best and brightest minds into it. Gary, I do want to shift gears into this question, and this actually changes the tone a little bit. It's the challenge question. Now, this one ends up being a tricky part because we all have challenges or struggles in our lives, personally or professionally. No one's exempt. Doesn't matter who you are, whether you're dealing with it now, you've dealt with it in the past, or you haven't quite seen it yet, but you will. At the end of the day, I'm not the biggest concerned with what happens, but how we respond, what we learn from it, what we can share, and not to downplay pain or sorrow. But if you're comfortable sharing a challenge personally or professionally that you dealt with, you overcame, and you became stronger because of it, what's that look like for you?
I mean, probably the most recent challenge for us was I was with another Remax, and then we got asked to leave, so then we had to start another Remax. And so to do that kind of overnight without any warning was a little struggle.
Ouch.
But yeah, so that became a way of really having to focus on surviving, because it could have just rolled over and played dead. But that's where Deborah, tell me about managing broker, and Johnny, with everybody became so focused about making sure that we got the new office premises, we got our licenses set up, we got the name of the brokerage, we got. That was a huge struggle, which at the time I felt like I was being assassinated. I felt like I felt like I was, you got that, I've been shot. And if it was a movie, you would see, there he goes. He's
Bye, Gary.
But then, as you know, when the camera closes in on the guy with the eyes closed, and then boop, the eyes pop open, oh, he's still alive. So there was still life in us yet. And then, and it took I think it was probably a year of being always reacting to something, because it wasn't a plan changed. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? Now we've got to do something. So that was probably the biggest struggle. And I remember talking to people at the time going, this, and people would say, oh, it's the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I was like, are you crazy? This is awful. But now it's the best thing that's ever happened to us. So because now I own my own brokerage, we've got great business partners, we've got lots of insight, lots of I don't know, we have more credibility because it's us, and then we become the #1 Remax team in the world because we can do. You have more control of your own destiny, I guess, is what it is.
Sure.
Because if you're in somebody else's world, then you kind of have to conform a little bit to what they. I mean, just in terms of the systems, like accounting systems, different platforms, location, the way that you do things, like the whole business mantra is. Might not be yours, but now we do everything that we want, and then we can set up what we call feedback loops, so we can actually ask agents, are we doing the right thing? What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Is it because sometimes you feel like you're doing everything for the good of everybody, but then it turns out you maybe your vision's slightly different, and then you need to. And that's just communication where we're doing one thing and somebody thinks you're doing it the other way, and you have to talk and then explain and then show that what the end result is going to be good for everybody. So sometimes we have to, go through that. But because of owning the brokerage, you can do that, I feel.
Right.
So, I mean, so if you're talking about, that was a long-winded answer to say, yeah, starting our own brokerage was probably the hardest thing.
Wow.
And at the time, I think I had 70 agents on my team, and then 53 came with us.
Wow.
So that was a really strong statement.
Yep.
And then we've just grown from there, essentially. So yeah, I think that was a terrible time 5 years ago, but yeah, I think it's really been beneficial in the long run, which is what everybody says at the time. You don't want to hear it.
Yeah, but it's very meaningful coming from you, Gary, because you went through that process of pain where there's onlookers that say, oh, it's the best thing that ever happened to you. At the time, it felt miserable. However,
I thought I was going out of business. It was not a good time.
But look at where you're at now, though, right? I mean, that's the point.
Of the people that I was surrounded with that really took. Yeah, I mean, we all rallied together, I think. So good to be part of that kind of partnership, essentially.
Yeah, I'm a fan. And I think that there's so many people to a further point of that is no matter what you're going through right now, it might feel like the end of the world. But if you put the time in and effort, you're going to come out of it. And hopefully you come out of it in a much better position, just like you did. So I think that, again, we're all dealing with different challenges personally, professionally, and that's just an inspiring story for people to really latch on to and understand from one of the best and brightest minds in the world. So I do want to go into the next portion, and this is a softer question. So we got through the hard stuff. The tough stuff's over with, Gary, but this one ends up being one of my favorites. It's the travel back in time question. Now, this is not designed for you to say, if I could go back, I would change this, this, and this. However, if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, any age range, any time frame, what would you say to your younger self?
Well, I would go out and buy all the domains I could. All those geo domains.
Love it.
But I think that what I've learned is just what I was telling you, having that open mind and listening to people and not being stubborn. I feel like I'm less stubborn than I was. I'm a lot less, I feel. Some people might disagree, but having that open mind and listening to other people that have more successful, more knowledgeable, more experience, and being receptive, and that's having that open mind. So not just being, nope, this is the way I'm going to do it. Listen to people's advice, and that obviously depends on who you surround yourself with. So that cliche, you have to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, I think. And so that never be the smartest one in the room. I think that's the key.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, when you're talking about it from that standpoint, Gary, obviously you've done your part to do that and continue to now, but obviously we'd all want to go back and say, do this earlier, what's going on. We can't affect the past, but we can affect right now. So that advice to being the smartest person in the room, being open-minded, really understand that there are people who no matter what level you're at, there's people that are further than you, and you can
yeah.
learn
And
from
so
anyone,
that's
right?
the other thing. And they don't have to be younger. So they don't have to be older and more experienced.
Right.
Because I got people on the team. I think Scott's maybe when he joined the team was like 24 or 25, and he had all these ideas that were fantastic. And so we start implementing those slowly but surely. And then because I feel like I'm techie, but Scott is really techie. So being able to listen to what he says and have that open mind to do, because I guess we're aligned. We have the same vision, but sometimes I feel like he's got that. He's smarter, so you just listen to what he's saying. Yeah, that applies across the board essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And again, everybody, to take away that advice, whether you're watching or listening, is crucial. So 2 questions left and we're almost done, Gary. This has been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And I'm telling you, I would love to just talk to you all day long. And I know that everybody
I'm going to bring my
watching,
billboard in though, just to get
oh, there it is. That's right there. Hey, you can leave that up there, Gary. You can just hold it up the whole time. I'm fine with that. If you send me a PDF, I'll have it right underneath your video.
Yeah, I'll send that over. Yeah.
I will have that right underneath there, no doubt. But that's fantastic. So this is actually a secondary crowd pleaser out for everybody who's watching or listening, because they want to learn the way the Titans learn. So when it comes down to it, how you're feeding your mind. Now, if it comes down to books you're reading or have read, podcasts you're listening to or enjoy, you had mentioned John as a coach, but coaches, mentors, when we're talking about conferences you love to attend, masterminds, how are you feeding your mind? That's really the question.
So I would go to as many conferences as possible. Because I like traveling, and so that's good. So you get to go experience some other part of the country, but then you also, you get to meet, you get to meet people, and because if you go to one conference, like we go to Inman, that's good, but I would make a point of going to every one, because you start to see people and recognize people, and then they recognize you, and then that, I think that Deborah invited Darren Dawson, from Bomb Bomb, because Deborah's from Michigan, Darren's from, and somehow they got connected. And so then Darren came to visit us in Nashville to teach a treatment about Bomb Bomb, and then he said you should definitely come to Inman, and then I went to Inman, and then it was great because then I got to hang out with Darren, but then it was more about, well, Darren would go, hey, you need to talk to so-and-so, hey, meet so-and-so, and then it just opened up all these doors for knowing that I'm techie and like to stay ahead of the curve. When we met the guys from Follow Up Boss, and who else was me? So he just enabled us to stay ahead of the curve. When we saw, so I was we were the first one to get a Matterport camera in Nashville as an agent. So we got that because it was at the conferences, and so I'm not a big reader, but I do like podcasts. So been doing listening to the NPR one, which is How I Built This. I don't know if you know that one. I like that. I like the techie stuff. Mac Break Weekly. I listen to that, and then there's a bunch of real estate stuff you can listen to. I like, and then just applying different worlds and how you can apply that to enhance and improve the real estate experience. So, and I was chatting to you earlier on that I have an RV which we use for the Titans, some of the official real estate agents of the Titans and the Predators. And for every home game, we do a big tailgate. So I have my RV and it's all wrapped, and it says, if you go to GaryAshtonTailgate.com,
okay,
that's the one. So you can see, I should mention Tagger the Bear. So Tagger is spelled Tagger. I'll tell you a reason for this. So I was just thinking, we have Tagger the Bear at every tailgate, because I was trying to figure out how do we get more people into the tailgate, because people are walking past and we're selling real estate. Do they want to we just want people to come and hang out, hamburger, hot dog, and kind of have a good time, not selling real estate, but really you do want to create that connection so that at some point down the road, they'll remember us and use us for real estate. So Chris Lindahl, because he's the official real estate agent of the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh.
No, sorry, the Wild, the Minnesota Wild, the hockey team.
Okay.
So he had this awesome mascot called Lindy. So then I copied his idea and then got one called Tagger the Bear. Actually, if you see them, they're exactly the same. And but we were using that as a way, because then do you have kids?
Yes, daughter.
So if you were walking to the game and I came up to you and said, "Hey, do you want to come and have a hamburger, hot dog?" You'd be like, I'm good. But if the costume, Tagger the Bear, you got to look it up. Tagger the Bear. If Tagger comes over and he's like this, "What's up?" And you've got, how old are your kids?
She's 2. She's 2.
Oh, 2. Well, 2's a little bit too young, but when she's 8 or 10, when she's like, "Oh, Daddy, let's get a picture with Tagger." So then we get a picture with Tagger the Bear. And this is why it's called Tagger. Then we give you a business card, and then we say, we'll tag you on Facebook, or you tag yourself. That's where Tagger came from.
I love it.
Yeah. I forgot what I was telling you that now.
You were talking about your tailgate parties and what was going on, and then you went into the mascot portion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know why. Because I was talking about how you can take different things from different businesses and apply it. And so I think I've been telling you about the RV. Oh, I remember now. So the RV. So my RV that I have is too long. It's like 40 feet long. But like everybody else in the US right now, I like the idea of having a small Sprinter. And so I was looking online during COVID, and I was talking to you about this earlier on, like YouTube is now, I don't know, I would only watch it for a few things, but now I realize there's so much content on there, and it's not poorly produced. It's well produced shows, and it's amazing stuff. So I started looking at, so once you look at one thing, then the algorithm, there'll be a recommended, watch this video. I started watching all these videos on RVs. And then this one guy kept coming up, and his name is Matt's RV Reviews. Actually, mattsrvreviews.com, that's it. So when I was kind of chatting to you earlier on about saying that, trying to convince the agents that they need to use video more and more and more. So for us, everybody's using BombBomb, so it's fantastic. But still, some people you have to get them over that hurdle of doing it. But Matt is a perfect example of somebody that I think now he has like 60,000 followers, but by the start of the year, it was only like 2,000 or 3,000. So if you go to mattsrvreviews.com and watch his videos, you can see at the beginning of the year, he wasn't quite as comfortable, wasn't quite as polished. He was entertaining, but if you go watch the videos of more recent ones, I think the way that I describe it, he's got all these little hooks already built in. That he's developed his persona, he's involved his wife, and he's entertaining. And I feel like I've got to know him. So when I buy my RV, I'm going to use Matt, even though I could probably use a local guy or something like that, but I don't know that person.
Right.
But because I've subscribed, I keep getting information. Now I'm on the newsletter and things like that. So the analogy for me is that's kind of how real estate is that you need to be not just sending people the homes that they're on an update. You need to be creating that added value. And by doing the added value is to go and make sure that you go out and find properties for people, which is essentially how I got the Titans account. Because way back when they were looking for a new general manager, I think we had 3 of the potential candidates sign up on the website. And so I didn't know who it was. It was a lady that signed up. Susan Reinfeld's the name. And so she signed up. She was looking, this is when I was actually actively selling. This is 2007, I think it was. And she was looking at homes in the, high-end price range. I said, oh, I'll take that one. And so I ended up connecting with her on the phone, sent her information. But then I would go out and do more information. I would go out and take pictures of homes, and I wasn't doing video back then, but she connected with me because I was going the extra mile, and I was creating added value, and that's kind of what Matt does with his videos, and the more that he's done, the better he's got, and not even more professional. If you watch the videos, it's not going to be like a Hollywood production. It has its own kind of charm about it, the way, because he'll do that ding over here and price
Yeah.
and subscribe ding. But he's definitely improved, and that I feel that's the thing for the agents, is to keep doing those things, keep using it, but keep creating and adding value, because at the end of the day, your personality is what's going to sell you. So as well as the knowledge, so it's a combination of all things. So, but people like to work with people they like. So the more that you can get across your personality, and most realtors, I believe, are genuinely friendly and honest and wanting to help people. So the more you can get that across, the better, actually. So video, if you're not doing video, you're out of date.
I would agree with that 100%. And I think that the adage, work with who you know, like, and trust, I think it kind of resonates with the audience and people in the industry.
Know you, love you, trust you. That's what Deborah always says.
See, I like that one better. Deborah, thank you.
I think that's something to do with another coach or something that everybody was 10 years ago. There was some stars, I can't remember. But know you, love you, trust you was or maybe that's just Deborah's phrase and she's adapted it. But that's what she will always say, that people want to work with people they like and know and trust them. So that's how we try and set ourselves up for the agents. And so video is definitely a way to get that message across, the added value, and get your personality across.
Yeah, I would agree. And I furthermore, into that note, just diving a little bit deeper into, the gentleman with the RV channel, and we'll have links down below so everybody can, if you're interested, it's going to be down there,
honestly,
because Gary said it out loud.
Entertaining. So I think you would, I like this guy. Even if you don't want to buy an RV, by the end of it, you'll be going, this is good. I like this. Maybe I should look at an RV.
Maybe this makes sense, but I love the fact that you had mentioned going back to the early days versus where he is now. And I think that that's a evolution and transition for everybody in everyday life. So you look back at your day one in your business, Gary, to where you are today, totally different person. You're a different person. You know more, you understand more, you have different perspectives, you have different thoughts, you have different people that you're surrounded with than at the very beginning. So the point is that if you're putting the time and the effort in, you should be getting better. You should be evolving. You should be changing. And I think that that's any walk of life. That's any business. And whether it's video or not, I think we should all be looking at that evolution. And hey, you know what? If you're the exact same mentality and thought process and business production, you're the same husband, father, wife, community person as you were 10 years, 20 years ago, maybe you need to look at your life and see if you can improve. Because I think that at the end of the day, we should just be the best versions of ourselves, not just for us, but for everybody around us. So I like that, Gary. I really think that hits home. And again, everybody, I'm going to have links in the comments down below so that, again, you can follow and feed your mind the same way this man is. I want one more question out of you, my friend. That's all I'm asking. You've been so generous with your time, and this has been incredible information and conversation. But Gary, this last one is a quote or mantra. It sums you up as a man.
I remember you mentioned this. Okay.
As a professional, what's that look like for you, Gary?
I think that, and it's not me. This is John Cheplack. It's like, have an open mind. And I think I told you, since we've kind of been working with John, as Deborah and Scott, and he's been working with Monica and our sales lady, and Jeff Checo on the team as well. We've all gone to the conference with John, and then managed to network with all the other people that have been coached by John. So just that mantra of having an open mind, I think, is probably the other one I would say was don't get mad, get even. But then people say that was mean. But
I like it. I think that's right on, Gary. But no, I love that. I think that again, it sums you up, and the entirety of what you and I have been sharing this moment with and time with everybody else is just really having that open mind and learning from others and expanding and
Yeah.
growing. And I think that sums it up beautifully, Gary. I really do. You know, you're a true example to everybody out there in the real estate world who is looking for that. I don't want to say bar or benchmark, but you're really doing it. You're really setting it. You're really looking at it from a perspective that this is more than
It's not me.
just.
You have to remember, it's not me. It's when we say we're the number one Remax team in the world, well, there's that, it's team.
Mhm.
So I'm a portion of it. I may have started it, but it's kind of like having. I don't have any kids, so I'm gonna say kind of like having a puppy,
Okay.
and then you send it away to school, and
Mhm.
that puppy becomes well trained, and then people come talk to your puppy later and they go, "Oh, your dog's so obedient." So, oh, thank you very much. But really, it's the people you sent it to school that trained it. So, yeah,
Sure.
it's not just me. It's all everybody else that's being part of the team, and that's one thing I feel like we're really focusing on having the feedback of the agents. So it's not
Mm.
just do it our way. I think this is another thing that John created to hold those feedback loops. So
Mhm.
you actually get the good and the bad, the positive and negative, so that you can improve on the positive and then tweak the negative and or explain. And like I said before, a lot of the times the negative might be that people don't fully understand the picture of why you're having to do something,
Mm.
why you're having to make that change. And then when you show people, they go, "Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, now I understand why we're doing this." And so it's just having um, I'm not going to say open mind again, but anyway, so
Yeah.
that's whatever it was.
Yeah. But that makes sense. It really does, Gary. And I love the
Glad
fact
it
that you.
makes sense to you because I'm going to have to. What was I saying there?
Wait a minute. When you listen to this later on iTunes, you're going to think, "Oh, what was I saying at the end of that?" I love it.
Oh, I know. It's like it's definitely it's not me. It's the people that you surround yourself with and
Mhm.
people that have joined the team and having that contribution from everybody on the team is what's made the team successful. So
Mm.
yeah, I think I started it, but the team it's gone way beyond me. It's
Wow.
um, yeah, it's like anything as it grows and gets bigger. And I think you know, Walmart that started with a small store and it just
Mhm.
became a multinational. It's just because of the people that were hired and had the same vision and growth and all that good stuff.
Mm. At the end of it, well said. I mean, and again, Gary, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. It's just you taking the time. I know you're super busy and there's so many other things you could be doing, but the fact that you took the time to share your story with
Oh,
us.
my phone's been ringing again. I got to go through all these missed calls in a minute.
I think it's fantastic. And I do need to state, even though technically you were a real estate titan already because of the NFL, you're an official real estate titan because you just wrapped up this show,
Do I
my
get a
friend. So,
hat? Do I get a badge? Do I
you
get
know,
a?
something's
You
in the
know.
mail. Something's in the mail. It'll be
So
there.
this is one of those things that Matt does. Because he has these little catches. You can. What does he say? You can you can text, you can email, you can FaceTime or call. So you got to watch his videos to get because he has it down as a little. Anyway, okay.
No, I love it. I love it. I definitely will. I'm going to have links down below. But I just, Gary, I just think that, again, you taking the time to share it with everybody. I know that everybody's super thankful, myself included. And I just want to thank everybody, as always, out there for your time and attention, your love and support. If you like what we're doing here with Real Estate Titans, don't forget to like, subscribe. You know what to do at this point. I do have to give our sponsor a quick shout out, Lionbolt Media. If you are in real estate and you're looking to be the top 1% of the 1%, you really need to visit their website at lionboltmedia.com for the latest and greatest when it comes to growth, scale, really leveraging your brand awareness in your local markets, as well as lead generation, nurture, and then cultivation. Visit lionboltmedia.com. We are live every Tuesday and Friday afternoon, a different Titan, a different location. We'll catch everybody in the next live episode of Real Estate Titans. Thanks. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.